number one, I didn't get sober to be miserable. Like that has nothing to do with why I'm here. And number two, if you're miserable in sobriety, how long are you really likely to stay sober? Like it's literally a matter of time in my mind.
Welcome to Self-Made and Sober. I'm your host, Andrew Lassis with selfmade-coaching.com. And in this podcast, it's my job to interview people who are not only crushing it in business, but have also struggled with addiction in the past and are in long-term recovery. Be sure to join our Facebook group where we help entrepreneurs grow and scale their business at facebook.com/groups/SMC Mastermind, like Self-Made Coaching Mastermind. I hope you enjoy the show, and be sure to subscribe and rate the show afterwards so you can get notified each Friday when we put out a new episode. And with me today is Jonathan Sylvester. Jonathan, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Andrew. Happy to be here.
Yeah, Jonathan is the founder and head coach of the Recover You coaching program. And why don't you give us a little background on what that is?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of my background is with fitness and nutrition. And so I actually, several years back, launched the online part of my fitness and nutrition coaching business. And that was going really well. And then there were some developments and some things happened. And I really just came back to the realization that I really love and want to work with men in recovery. And so what this turned into is an online group coaching program for guys in recovery. So we've got guys that, have never been in recovery before and they need some guidance. And I help guide them, into a 12-step program, and which is really kind of the foundation for the program. And then for all the guys that are in the program. And then we also have guys, though, that have like 5, 10, 15 years sober. So it's really a body, mind, spirit, sobriety. It's looking at everything. It's looking at your relationships. It is about, creating a routine in your life. It's about, looking at really keeping score and looking at the facts in your life as opposed to letting emotions guide things, if that makes sense. It's really all about, the motto is recover the man you were meant to be. And that's really what this is all about. This is about getting very clear on who this guy is that you want to become and you want to live as, and developing a plan to get there, and having the accountability and coaching and support from other like-minded men to help you actually get there.
And one of the things you kind of touched on, and this is a huge thing for me, and my wife and I are polar opposites on this, and so you and I are on the same team. The facts versus the self-defeating self-talk, the barriers that don't actually exist. Do you mean to tell me that there are human beings that maybe make decisions based on emotions and feelings on a situation that actually the facts don't align with the feelings?
I think that definitely happens. And look, I'm not going to say, I'm not perfect with it. Like I definitely have to, take a step back and gain some perspective sometimes, and really ask myself if I'm letting feelings and emotion guide the situation, whether it's in my business or in my personal life, and really just take a step back. But yeah, I think it's so important to look at the facts. And I'll give you this example. I think if someone listening is wondering, like, okay, well, what are you really talking about? One of the first examples that I share with guys that are coming into the coaching program when I present them with this thinking is, okay, well, let's say that a guy has been relapsing, right? He's been relapsing, and maybe you've heard this in a meeting before, Andrew, like, man, I don't know why I keep relapsing. I feel like I'm doing everything I need to be doing. That is emotion. Now, if we took a step back and we said, all right, man, let's look at the facts of what's going on. Are you going to meetings? Are you plugged in with like-minded individuals? Do you have a sponsor? Are you connected, staying plugged in, or are you connected with other guys? Are you doing all these things you need to be doing? And it's likely that he wouldn't be. So, that right there, just as it relates to recovery, I think that's so important in terms of looking at the facts.
And you can equate that with business also, where, I have salesmen. I got one guy sitting next to another guy with the literal exact same random chance opportunities. And the one guy makes 4 times as much money as the other one. And they literally, like the one who's making less, I know in his mind, he thinks we give the other one these magic opportunities, and it's literally not what's happening. It's just the one is continuing to do things his way that is very successful, and the other one has this mental block thinking that the way that he does things is the better way. And he sitting next to the person, and they've been with me for years, and they're both really good at what they do. One obviously brings in more than the other, but it's like, look at the person literally sitting next to you. They make 4 times as much money in the exact same amount of time and opportunity as you, but they do it this way, and you do it this way. And if he was owning it and saying, well, yeah, I know that I'm making 4 times less because I'm doing it the wrong way, then it's just like, well, dude, you're crazy. But he's like, I'm not doing anything different. And it's like, look, listen to these 2 recordings. Who sounded different? He's like, doesn't make a difference. It's like, it literally does, because like,
let's look at the numbers.
Yeah, you get the exact same results for months on end, over and over and over, with the exact same opportunities. Like, but that idea of the one is very, very fact-based. He does A/B testing. He looks at what works, what doesn't work. He takes what works, doubles down on it, he's testing, constantly tweaking the script, getting better and better and better, and that's how he gets there. And the other one's like, nah, this way works. And like, does it work? Yes, it works. Is it the most effective way? No, but he's got that self-talk of the other guy gets a lot more money, and he thinks it's because he gets other opportunities, and that's not the case. He's literally given the exact same thing. But that idea,
definitely bring this guy on the show to just talk to him about this.
yeah. No, we've had many a sit down, but he's, different strokes for different folks. Some people are very analytical, A/B testing. I want to make the most money as I can while I sit down, so I'll do the best thing. And the other one just, I got a job and I'm making good enough money, and just like, I'm gonna do my thing. And as a business owner, it sucks seeing the one that's not doing as well, because it also means that like we don't make as much as a company, but at the same time, it's like we're profitable with it. So maybe this is one of those, like, someone else listening is like, you have to fire him. Like, how dare you let him stay there? But it's like,
get rid of him. Get rid of him. Well, look, and I understand. I mean, I think that's in terms of, my business, I think that's a mistake that I made for a long time, is thinking that, and maybe we're all stubborn like that, in different areas or to some degree, but I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making. And I think, and a lot of the times I think it comes down to, what you're touching on in sales. Sales and marketing, I would say, are like the 2 biggest areas that business owners really need to look at data. And like a lot of the times, I think, like in marketing, what happens is people say, something's not working, and they really haven't given enough time to gather enough data. And this is pretty basic stuff, but I think this is where a lot of people might be going wrong. And they're not getting enough data to actually be able to look at the facts and see, like, okay, is this working or not? And you mentioned, the sales guy that's successful doing A/B testing. It's like, man, you're going to have to try some different things out. You're just going to have to try some different stuff, but you also need to be looking at the facts and the data behind it, for sure.
Yeah. So in your group,
Mm,
you help people kind of decipher here are the things that you are doing. And, you may feel that you're doing everything that you can be, but what are we filling in? And so, like, say you identify some gaps in somebody's program. What are the steps that you guys take? Is it a group? Is it you? What's the next step when we identify pieces that are
sure.
missing?
Yeah. So, and let me just tell you exactly how we do that. So, when guys come into the program, they actually, one of the many things they do is fill out a questionnaire, which it's literally called the facts. And so, what we're doing is because a lot of men do not do this in general. We look at what is your starting point, the facts of where you are right now. What is your starting point? So what's going on in your health, your habits, your relationships, your recovery? What's really going on? Because if we don't establish that starting point, we don't know what needs to be improved upon, right? We don't really know what our starting point is. And then we establish the destination. And that's getting really clear on who this guy is that you want to become. And then in between that, it's really building the game plan to get from point A to point B, going from your starting point to what we term in our program. So there's like different layers within the program. These guys start out as what we call seekers, where they're really just trying to figure this stuff out, right? And because even if a guy comes in and let's say he has 15 years sober, there's a reason that he's coming to me. A lot of the times it's because of one of two things: his health, right? His health isn't where it should be. And or it pretty much always comes back to whatever they see as the real problem isn't usually the real problem. The real problem usually comes down to time management and organization. And so, like, one of the main things that we have these guys do is start using their calendar, and so in recovery, we say, do the next right thing, right? And sometimes it can be overwhelming or hard to determine what is the next right thing. So this is kind of answering your question here. Like, how do we fill those holes, in your program or in your life? It's, man, let's establish this game plan. And a big part of that is literally just using your calendar in your phone, because it's not, it can be overwhelming. I mean, you might be surprised the number of guys that have come into my program that have 15 plus years, 20 plus years of sobriety. And you would think, like, well, these guys have stayed sober this long, like they must have it all figured out. And no, something is missing. And a lot of the times, like I said, it's just having a game plan to follow. And you look down at your schedule. It eliminates the overwhelm. It eliminates the guesswork. You look down, you know what the next right thing is. So the next right thing for a guy that's been sober for a long time, and I'll just be real about this. This is what I'm really passionate about. I really hate seeing guys that have been sober for a long time and are miserable. And that's really where a lot of these guys are. And my thing is, what this coaching program is really all about at the end of the day is my true thought and feeling is that, number one, I didn't get sober to be miserable. Like, that has nothing to do with why I'm here. And number two, if you're miserable in sobriety, how long are you really likely to stay sober? Like, it's literally a matter of time in my mind, and so anyway, these guys they're missing something, and a lot of it comes down to basic organization. So that's how we fill in the gaps, is we lay out a basic game plan. A big part of that is literally, hey, you have this friggin' phone in your hand all day long. How about you use the calendar on it? And when you're not sure what to do, you just look down and you do that thing. I mean, that's a big part of it. It sounds simple, but most guys in and out of recovery are not doing that.
Yeah, I think a big piece of it's just humans in general. We we have this discontent and we know we want things to be different, but we are not willing to just stop for 5 minutes and identify where we want to go, which is part of your plan, and then putting it in a calendar and having time set aside for specific things to get done. Like, humans hate planning. They love when they have planned in the past, but they hate the process of sitting down and looking at, where am I right now? Where do I want to be? What steps do I need to make sure that I take every single day in order to accomplish this? Because if we're just doing whatever we want all the time, like, you'll get through life and then you'll be at the end of it and be like, you know what? I did nothing. Like, I remember being extremely busy and extremely overwhelmed, but I have nothing to show for it. And actually, a couple episodes back, Russ Perry of Design Pickle was on, and he talked about that a ton, where he calls it his analog system, where he just writes out his day ahead of time. And that ties into exactly what you're talking about. The next right thing, when it's on the calendar, it's easy for people to follow. Look at the clock. It's 10:30 a.m. Okay, at 10:30 a.m., I'm supposed to be doing this thing. Okay, that's the next right thing. It's so easy when you just follow a schedule, because everybody can subscribe to time is a good indicator of when to do things. It's not like, is it dusk? Time to do this.
Right.
Like, it's very, very black and white, which people like you and I, we have brains that like black and white, and time is a very, very good black and white.
Yeah. And let me be clear. I did not used to be like this at all. And the thing is that a lot of people say they think, like, especially people in recovery, man, like, we think we hate structure. We think we hate structure. But man, we thrive in structure. We thrive with structure. I mean, it's like, man, I joke about this, but it's so true. Like, the way my mind works is the 12 steps work great for me because it's on a huge friggin' poster when I walk into this room, numbered 1 through 12, make it super easy for me to follow, and so the thing is what a lot of guys aren't really thinking about is, like, early on in sobriety, like, it's easy to figure out what the next right thing is for most of us, because maybe it's likely that we don't have a lot going on. Like, I didn't have a lot going on. It was I was blessed enough to where, like, my basic needs were taken care of. My family was like, hey, get better, focus on your recovery, and that's all I had to do at the time. But as your life starts to get better, you have more gifts coming into your life, and you have to, if you want to maintain, and not just maintain. I'm not a big fan of people saying maintaining sobriety, because I think we should be growing. And, people talk about, like, steps 10, 11, and 12 being maintenance steps. It's like, man, if you do that stuff every day, you're not going to be maintaining anything. You're going to be growing, that's just the reality. But, when we start having these other things come into our lives, we've got to figure out a way to, I'm not going to say juggle all this stuff, but keep all of it organized and keep moving forward, and make sure that we're not letting people down, and we're living by these principles. And so there's a lot of things, that, and this kind of goes back to what we do in Recover You. It's the 12 steps are awesome, man. The 12 steps changed my life, but I think there are also other things that guys like us should be doing, and having some type of organization and having some type of structure in our lives is one of those things that I think just really takes what we do with the 12 steps and how we benefit from the 12 steps to the next level, to that next level. So I think that's just one of the many things that we should be doing to make sure we're growing.
I think that's a great turning point to, let's get into, and I'd forgotten to mention this in the beginning, but he's also the host of the Sobriety Blueprint podcast. So I'm sure just everybody's, like, in love with me and follows everything I do.
Yes.
And, there's probably an episode there with my name on it. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Maybe, perhaps. But Why don't you give us a little background on what was your intention with that and what you are putting together with it for those that aren't familiar?
Yeah, the Sobriety Blueprint podcast. So it's a podcast for men in recovery. Same ideas as the recovery coaching program to really show guys and help guys and enable them to become the best men. And the way that I feel like I've started to become more of this man that I want to become, in all these different areas of my life, relationships, finances, recovery, is by seeing other guys. When we come into recovery, we're told, look for the people that have what you want. And so I want to bring on other men that have what I want, because I know it's very likely that the guys listening are going to want what these guys have as well. And so, what was my intention? It's, first off, it's to make an impact. It's to carry the message is really what it is. And a big part of that message, again, for me is really, once you get this foundation down, and I'm not shy about saying this, getting sober for me was a huge blessing. It really is for anyone. I mean, when you came on the podcast, you told me your story. I mean, man, it's nothing short of a miracle, right? It's nothing short of a miracle. But at the same time, man, to a certain degree, it's kind of the bare minimum after you have this foundation down. And I'm very direct in saying that to guys, like in guys I sponsor, with guys I coach, like we'll do, like within the coaching program, like we'll go through at the end of the week, our wins for the week. Like, what were your wins, and talk about some of these things that they accomplish. And, some of these guys that have this stuff down or have been sober for a while, it's like, man, I don't want you coming to the table, like coming to our meeting with saying that you stayed sober this week. What else is going on in your life? So I really want to, because I hate hearing guys saying like that being sober is just this miserable thing. I'm really trying to open guys' minds up to, this is not a liability. This is an asset. You are learning things within recovery that normal people will never have the opportunity to learn. Normal people go to business coaches, life coaches, pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn, and still never fully grasp and implement into their lives. Like, dude, take this stuff and create an awesome life with it. So that's what it's really all about. Yeah. And number one, it's about making an impact. Number two, I'll tell you, the first episode started with me telling my story. And a big part of this is really selfishly about me living my truth. And it's a weird thing, man. Most people have known that I'm in recovery for a while, and I don't think, and I'm not anonymous about it by any means. I think it's important for people to know, what's going on. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to go around and just like tell someone they don't know their whole life story like I have necessarily. But, for me, man, it was kind of a weird deal, because I'm really proud, and I never thought I would say it, I'm really proud of who I am today. And it's a weird thing because, I guess I didn't want to talk to people about who I am now, because that meant bringing up who I used to be. There would have to be a comparison. I would have to contrast between the two. And so a big part of this, man, is really just about me living my truth and taking that mask off and being the real me. There's a saying, I don't know if it's like Napoleon Hill or who it is, I can't remember, but it's, if I want to be free, I gotta be me. It sounds kind of corny, but I think it's true.
I think it's a lyric from a Smash Mouth song.
Yeah, very well could be. Very well.
No, but that's
yeah. So
very
that's
good
what
point.
it's all about, man. And that's really why I started, is just to kind of open guys' eyes to maybe there's more out there, but because there is, it's not a maybe, there's more out there for you. And if I can do something to help you see that, or turn you on to someone like Andrew that maybe opens your mind up to a thought or something like that, then, that's what helped me so much, so that's really what I'm attempting to do.
Awesome. And have you had any, like, I know for myself, I've had a couple kind of revelations and like ways that I view recovery differently than I used to when I'd started. And I know, like, through your journey, it's still, you're learning stuff as you go. And I mean, we all are, but have you had any guests? Like I've had a couple that have just had like giant impacts. Like I saw you had Omar on the show, which is awesome. And like he's like an incredible person,
man.
And but have you had any guests on the show that just like completely blew your mind with some of the stuff that they brought to the table? I was looking for a layup for me. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'll just say, like, it was actually after I had you on, because my podcast, the Sobriety Blueprint's still relatively young. Like I'm coming up on episode 12. It is going to be coming out this coming Monday. And so, I haven't done a ton of episodes, but, like after having you and a couple of other guys on, I think I just really started to, the revelation I had is that I think that in this online world, it's really easy, even though we're connecting with people to a degree, maybe every day, it's easy for me to still kind of like isolate myself and not really connect with others, if that makes sense. I think like when I had you and a couple other guys come on, like one of the main things like I started to see is like I was just reminded of the value in networking. I mean, it seems like a simple thing, but then I also started to see, like, in having you and definitely Omar on, man, I am getting coached for free.
I know, right? Isn't that awesome?
like that has been my big revelation. I'm like, this is it's an excuse for me to connect with guys like Andrew that have built these like incredible businesses and are doing all these cool things. And man, and you, I'll just say, like, you helped me out a ton because you connected me with all these other guys, and I really appreciate that. I mean, it's been a huge help for the show. It's been, and I have had some big revelations. The biggest one though is just, I still need to connect. As much as I talk about connecting so much, just in terms of, what I put out there on social media, with the guys that I coach, with the guys I sponsor, staying connected, stay plugged in. I need to keep doing that. I'm not special, and again, for me, the connecting isn't just about like initially, like in recovery, it's like get connected to save your life. But now it's like, man, get connected to keep growing and have these revelations and meet these new people that I never would have met. So that's been my biggest revelation. It's just the need to continue to meet new people that are like-minded, and definitely remain open-minded, like specifically on the recovery stuff. There have been some revelations I have. And I mean, I have certain thoughts about like the way that I think, things should be done and what worked for me. But like you said, different strokes for different folks. I mean, what worked for me may not work for others. And, who am I to tell someone, no, you did it wrong, or,
Yeah, I hate that though. I hate that, I can share my experience and it's definitely my truth, and then someone else tries to replicate it and then it's just not the same for them. And like my wife and I, like we go through this all the time where just my solution to everything is like, well, here is a problem and then let's formulate a plan and execute a solution.
Right.
And like that's how my brain works, is problem, okay, defeat the problem, win. But like her brain's just wired differently. It's just like, it's an emotion. And I think there was like an episode on like Parks and Rec where they like, to solve problems, all they did was just the guy, like, he just started repeating the problem back, and that was just all he had to do. He's like, wait, I don't have to solve it. I just have to say the problem back to her, and then it's done. So different people, at the end of the day, we're all just trying to coexist. And I believe that you're right when you say being in recovery has been one of the greatest assets of my life. At the moment, when I first got my DUI and everything started going bad, it was a liability.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend like it was good then.
No.
But at the same time, looking back, that day that I got the DUI that made me go meet the lawyer and get the breathalyzer in my car and then go to court and then go to rehab and all of these things that led my life to where it is today. At the time, I didn't like going through them, but growth is not something that's comfortable. And if I had just stayed exactly where I was, I'd probably still be, working in a restaurant in Howard County, Maryland, and not really going anywhere. Like, my life was not going anywhere if I looked at the facts. And I think that that's just, it's a great barometer. And it blows my mind that more people don't live their life based on facts, but that's their prerogative. And, if running your life off facts and truths isn't for you and you're happy with how you're doing things, then, like, who am I to tell you you're wrong,
Yeah. Yeah. And for, like I said, just to be clear, for me, it was a learned thing. Like, it's not like I just came into this world being like that. That wasn't my thinking for a long time. So yeah, I mean, I think, again, if someone's listening and they're maybe not fully grasping what it is we're talking about, just like in the next few decisions that you make, even if they're just small life decisions, business decisions, ask yourself if they're based on facts. Like, if you're, especially in your business, like what data are you looking at? I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's just like, meal prep. If all of your meals are picked out for you ahead of time, then you don't really get the choice. Like, you're making it. Humans have a tendency to go to the path of least resistance. And when we have structure and when we have decisions made for us already, that's the path of least resistance. So if you do something like meal prep, and Monday for breakfast, I'm going to eat this. Monday for lunch, I'm going to eat this. In between lunch and dinner, I'm going to eat this. And for dinner, I'm going to eat this. And I know what my macros are. I know everything that I need to know about what I ate that day. And I know that if I continue eating this way, that I will lose weight because I'm operating at a calorie deficiency, whatever the science is. I'm sure you know way more about this stuff than I do.
A little bit.
But the idea that you save yourself from yourself, you don't run into, oh, I'm walking downstairs and there's Halloween candy in the basket, I'm going to eat one, and then look back on the last month and it's like, dude, I ate 80 pieces of candy that I had no intention of ever eating, but it just happened.
Yeah.
But if I had everything planned out and I kept that out of sight, I mean, the candy, it's a weak spot. So thank God Halloween's over.
Oh, man.
but yeah, having a plan for recovery, for business, for life, have a plan, follow it, create your path of least resistance, put in a couple minutes to plan something out, and your future self will thank you for it. But Jonathan, we're running short on time. Where can people find you online to learn more about you and Sobriety Blueprint podcast and Recover You?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can go to recoveryou.net to learn more about the Recover You coaching program. They can also go to the sobrietyblueprint.com. You can find the Sobriety Blueprint on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And also just feel free to connect with me on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for being on Self-Made and Sober. And guys, if you enjoyed the show, Please go on iTunes, rate the show. It's how we grow. Subscribe, tell your friends. And Jonathan, have a great day, man. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, you too, Andrew. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much for listening to Self-Made and Sober. Be sure to join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/SMC Mastermind, like Self-Made Coaching Mastermind. I hope you enjoyed the show, and be sure to subscribe and rate the show so you can get notified each Friday when we put out a new episode.